Have you seen that new, it's relatively new, I guess, the podcast with Terrence Williams and Eric Weinstein that Joe Rogan did?
You mean Terrence Howard?
Terrence Howard, yeah, not Terrence
Oh, man,
Williams,
he's
sorry.
my favorite mathematician. He's hilarious.
But,
yes, I did. To answer your question, yes, I did watch that. It was awesome.
When I was listening to it, it reminded me of Greg, because basically Eric was like...
Wait. Did Terrence remind you of Greg, or did...
Yes, Terrence reminded me of
I'm sure
Greg.
He's going to love that.
What's the most efficient path to victory against this particular opponent?
He's dropping off for the choke here. We could see the finish. It's looking tight. Tight at Alpra.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. This is the Everyday Jiu-Jitsu Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Kwan. The Everyday Jiu-Jitsu Podcast is everything you need to know about Jiu-Jitsu. Today I have a guest with me, Mr. Jake Luigi from Less Impressed, More Involved. Jake, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Matt. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you very much for coming. Guys, before we get into it, I'm very excited about this conversation. I've been meaning to talk to Jake for a while. Before we get into it, please like, share, subscribe, leave a review, comment. If you want to support the show, check the links in the bottom. All right, Jake, so first, tell us who you are.
I'm Jake. I'm a purple belt in Jiu-Jitsu. I graduated college, moved to the Bay Area, and there was a Jiu-Jitsu school across the street from where I was living. Joined Jiu-Jitsu started doing Jiu-Jitsu, I guess, in 2015. And then I moved out to Hawaii with my wife, and we moved to this very small island that didn't have any Jiu-Jitsu. So I started the YouTube channel Less Impressed, More Involved as a way to stay involved in Jiu-Jitsu because I loved it, and I wanted to stay engaged with Jiu-Jitsu when I moved out to this island of Lanai, and that Jiu-Jitsu channel has been more successful than I could have imagined. So yeah, that's kind of the gist of the story and who I am.
So you were in San Francisco there? Is that where you're from originally?
I'm from Sacramento originally, and then I got a job in Oakland. And then I lived in Pacifica, which is just south of San Francisco.
Where were you training there? Were you at Osiander's gym?
I was training under a black belt who got his black belt from Kurt Osiander, if that makes sense.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, I was training at the Cave Academy in Pacifica.
And you say now you're in Lanai?
Yeah.
So whenever I've gone to Hawaii, me and my wife always talk about like how great it would be to move there. And then you talk to some of the locals and they're like, yeah, I remember having that thought like 20 years ago, and then I moved here, and some of them regret it and some of them really love it. How do you feel about your move to Hawaii? Was it a good choice overall?
It was a huge change because we moved from obviously the Bay Area grind to an island with 3,000 people and no traffic lights and like one FedEx person, it's like super small. Everyone knows everyone. And there's not a lot going on. So it was a huge change. And sometimes you got to get off the rock a little bit. So we found like every 3-4 months, it's nice to go back and visit family. And there seems to be some excuse, like a wedding or something going on every 3 to 4 months that we get to go back and get on the mainland. But it's been nice. We love it out here.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful. I've actually been there. Do you have access to good training over there? You had mentioned there's not really much jiu-jitsu. Are you kind of leading the charge when it comes to having, good jiu-jitsu there? Are you coaching? What's your role over there from a day-to-day jiu-jitsu standpoint?
Yeah, so the first year that I moved out here, there wasn't any training. It was just all me watching jiu-jitsu and just kind of commenting on what I saw professionals doing. And then about 2 years ago now, we set up some mats in a Buddhist temple here. We got access to a Buddhist temple, and there's like 3-4 people maybe that train on a weekly basis, and we train like 2-3 times a week. So that's kind of where it's at. There's, not very many high level people here. We get some visitors that come from other islands, so it's nice to train with visitors. But yeah, it's the level of training here is not the best for sure, but it's coming along.
So it's kind of
and yeah, I'm kind of the coordinator of everything.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of getting at. How do you being in it's almost like it's like the cliche of somebody who starts a gym and they don't have access to like really high level ranks and they have to build this up from the beginning. Like Hodger has a classic story where that's what he did when he first moved to England, and now look at him and look at his academy and everything, that he was able to accomplish despite the fact that he didn't have, the highest level training partners. Like, how does one manage their own training in an environment like that? Is it just kind of like, okay, well, I just gotta make lemonade out of lemons here and just sort of make it happen and catch everyone up as fast as I can?
Well, first I would just say I think my goals are a bit different than the average jiu-jitsu person. Like, the main thing I was trying to accomplish in training was, like, I would see something happening in competition, and I would use training as a way to kind of put myself in that situation and kind of test some of the ideas that I was seeing in training. And I've found that, at least from that perspective, it's been very nice being able to be the person in charge, because you could just go and be like, all right, like, I noticed this, especially, like, I know you want to talk about it later, but like with the eco approach, like, I don't have to go in and say like I know all the answers or anything. I just say like, hey, I came in, I noticed a lot of really good people are forcing this position or playing from this position or doing like this, and I just kind of want to like explore that with you guys. And so we'll just go in and just kind of mess around with whatever positions that I'm seeing kind of trending in the jiu-jitsu world.
Mm-hmm. How many days a week are you training?
It's usually 2. Like, the weekends, the consistent days, and that's kind of hit or miss. Like, sometimes there'll be 4 or 5 people there, and then sometimes it'll just be me and one other person.
And one of my questions was asking you about like long-term goals in jiu-jitsu. I was going to ask it to you at like the end of the show, but you're talking about your goals and whatnot. So like, what are your goals in jiu-jitsu? Where do you see yourself? Where do you want to be in 10 years? Like where do you see the future as it holds for your jiu-jitsu career?
This is a very hard question for me to answer, because I feel like I didn't really know where I was going with the YouTube channel at the beginning. I just knew I wanted to be involved with jiu-jitsu. And then I made like basically the database, and I thought it was going to be some statistic thing where you can see different statistics about different weight divisions and stuff like this. And then it kind of pivoted, and now it's more of like it's hopefully going to turn into like an AI company, pretty much, So like, I don't really know exactly, but right now I think my goals are definitely not like competitive, or not necessarily to be like the best jiu-jitsu practitioner I can be, but I definitely think the most value I can give is through creating a tool that can really help people study jiu-jitsu and organize their organize content better.
That's awesome. So a very selfless goal, just looking to help people, not so much your own competition accolades or anything like that. Do you have a desire to own an academy one day? Is that something that you want to do?
No, not
really. But yet you are kind of running a dojo, or you are running like a learning facility for jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, it's super informal, nothing crazy. Like the amount of time I think it takes to be a really good teacher, I think would take away from the amount of time I think it's going to take to build what I want to build from the database perspective. So I think it's just kind of one of those forks in the road where you just kind of got to pick what you want to do. And I personally think that a lot of competitors and coaches that you hear talk about how like they couldn't sit behind a desk for 8 hours a day and do this, and like that's honestly all I want to do. Like I love work, and I think.
You mean you love your own work that you do aside from jiu-jitsu?
No, I this is what I do for work.
You love
these
this.
days, and what I love this, and I feel like I can sit behind a desk for 10 hours and I can do that, and I love it. So I personally think it's my unique kind of like niche I can carve out in the jiu-jitsu world, and just kind of put all my effort towards that.
So you had mentioned that the time it would take, I think, I don't want to misquote you, but something around the line of the time it would take for you to become a good instructor. Like it would take a lot of time to become a good instructor or whatever. But like, I kind of consider you an instructor, at least the level that you're able to break down competition footage and what you see when you're watching jiu-jitsu, and then you kind of package it into these breakdowns that is super concise, super easy to see. They're really well edited. Like I'm sort of getting a little bit onto YouTube, but like where I'm lacking is, the editing of videos and making videos really, really appealing and attractive. Whereas you have that, like Jonathan Thomas's channel is really great for that, like some really slick video editing. But just actually the meat and potatoes, the backbone of your product, which is just like incredibly detailed and effective analysis. I kind of consider you an instructor, at least, I learn a lot from watching you. So how does that skill set differ from, like, let's say dealing with people as an instructor in the dojo?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Just like not necessarily talking about the skill set side of things, but just like the business side of things. Like if you want to be a instructor, like it's the time you have to spend like, managing your business. And I think I've definitely found that out with this database. There's just a lot of skills that go into running a business, and a lot of time that goes into it. So just like not even talking about like teaching people, but just like owning another business on top of that. I like, especially like with all the stuff I feel like I have to learn. Like you mentioned the editing stuff for videos. Like I knew nothing going into this, and it's just like learn one editing trick every video and just try and like, build that skill set over time. So, I just feel like my skill set is better adapted to just kind of continuing down the road that I'm already on. But kind of along the lines of what you're talking about instructor wise, like I do feel like there has to be like my videos are a bit more sporadic, I would say. Like I wouldn't necessarily say I spend a lot of time on one given topic. It's like from week to week, it could just be kind of bouncing around depending on what I see in a given video. And I do feel like an instructor and a coach would have to give, I don't know. I just feel like it's different. I don't necessarily feel like I'm the best at doing that, even in a small setting. Like even with the 4 or 5 people that I'm the coach of, I don't feel like I'm built for that, if that makes sense. I don't know what that is.
How do you feel about public speaking? Like if you had to present, if you had to give a presentation, whether it's coaching jiu-jitsu or otherwise, to a group of like 5 to 30 people in a room, like, is that daunting to you? Is that enjoyable to you? Is that something that you like?
I would not like that. No. Yeah.
Yet you've sort of signed yourself up for that.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a weird business. It's like lonely in the sense that you just spend all day at your desk recording videos, and then a bunch of people see it. So it is weird. And it's not something I ever expected. Like I wouldn't say I knew what I was signing up for when I did it. And I do feel like these days, like, yeah, I just make content these days where I feel like the information is kind of lacking elsewhere, if that makes sense. Like all I'm focused on these days is the database for the most part. And like, if I'm trying to figure out a way to train the model and I'm looking for information online and I'm not finding good information about a given position or something like that, that's what I want to make a video on and try and like fill that hole so I can train the model better. So like, yeah, that's basically what I've been doing, and it just so happens that a lot of people watch them, I guess. But yeah, that's been my focus.
And how did you know that you had like this knack for jiu-jitsu analysis? Like you're not someone who's trained for, decades and decades. You didn't, you haven't been surrounded by like John Danaher, Gordon Ryan, like the best guys necessarily, but yet the way you break down jiu-jitsu is very unique. Like I'll watch your breakdowns of, a lot of the time you'll do breakdowns of matches that just occurred, like Joseph Chan, Elijah Dorsey, or Gordon Ryan, Patrick Gaudio. Like you have videos on these analysis on these matches, and they're put out in a very timely manner because people are like, they want to see what actually was happening. And whenever I watch these matches, I'm blown away that you're like, some of the things you see, it's like all of my friends who introduced me to your channel, like I've known about you now for a while, they're like, this guy is so autistic. Like it's crazy the level of detail this guy can see. And I'm watching the videos and I'm like, holy fuck. Like I remember in the Gordon Ryan, Patrick Gaudio, you're like, when Gordon, I guess he called an arm bar, right? And you're like, Gordon Ryan is passing to the left side for the majority of the match, which is making Patrick Gaudio frame with the left arm. And then it was like, what, he had a voodoo doll where one of the arms was like disfigured at the end, but you're like, but that wasn't the arm that he was targeting it's been a while since I watched that match, and I'm like, holy shit, like the level of detail that you're putting into these matches. It's like you see things that like even me, someone who I've trained jiu-jitsu for 16 years and like I'm a professional coach, like things that I would just totally not even think about. And I'm just wondering, how did you know you had a knack for what you do? Like when did you realize like, oh, I think I can like put out some pretty interesting content here, and really stand out when a lot of people aren't offering this?
Yeah, I personally think it's just me spending a lot of time and only thinking about this. And I don't think I think I just do a good job of connecting dots. So like if I hear someone talk about something and I see it not necessarily happen in that same exact situation, but the same kind of ideas happening in a match, I think I'm able to connect the dots relatively well, if that makes sense. And yeah, I just think it comes down to just being able to take some sort of information, and the vaguer that information can be, and you can still make it useful, the better it's going to be, if that makes sense. So like if you get some, let's see if I can explain this. What I found is like, if you need to be told exactly how to do something, then you can only take that so far, right? It kind of goes down to like the eco kind of framework. But like if you need to be given exact instructions on how to run your business or how to do a specific jiu-jitsu technique, you're only going to get so far, in the sense that you would either need to like pay a lot of people to solve every one of your specific problems, or like on the flip side of things is you're given some sort of vague information or some sort of like overarching principle, and then you kind of run with that and you apply it to different situations. And I've definitely found that both are very helpful, but I think the more successful people tend to be able to do more with vague information, if that makes sense. And I feel like I've tried to do a good job of that. Like I'll hear Danaher talk about X and I'll try and relate it to like different things. And that's all I'm really trying to do is just connect dots.
Was it a skill that you had to sort of refine and develop this jiu-jitsu analysis that you're able to perform, or did it just come naturally and you just like felt it within you that it was like kind of spontaneous and organic the way that you make these videos? Or was it like, no, as I'm doing this, I'm definitely seeing that there's like a skill to it and you're refining it with every video?
I would say, at least at first, it was less intentional. Like I was definitely focused more on like improving my editing and things like that and storytelling and that type of thing. And I wasn't as focused on like improving my analysis, if that makes sense. I was just trying to tell a better story or structure the video better. And like, I wasn't necessarily trying to improve my analysis, but I would say like I recently had a conversation with Greg, and that basically shifted my whole perspective. And I would say that's the first time I've really like sat down and thought to myself, like, okay, how should I go about analyzing a sequence in jiu-jitsu? And I think it kind of put more structure into the way I go about approaching my analysis. So I loved my conversation with Greg. I learned a lot from that.
Are you talking about the Invariance podcast?
Yes, that one. And we also had like a little chat before then. And I just happened to be editing my video with Joseph and Elijah, and he was talking about some stuff, and I was just like, hey, like I'm in the process of editing this video. Can I just like show you what I'm working on? And then I showed him like all the fine-tuned like stuff, and he was like, yeah, I think it's great, but like I think if you zoom out, it would be like this thing. We were specifically talking about that K-guard sequence where Joseph like brings his knee to the inside, basically beat the legs of Elijah, and then he like after you beat the legs, you're supposed to go towards them and pin them. And that's basically how Greg worded it. And it kind of like, yeah, exactly like I said, shifted my kind of perspective. And then I just start to look for that same idea happening in different scenarios. And with that one piece of information that's relatively vague, you can kind of run with it.
What do you like most about jiu-jitsu?
I think I like the problem solving aspect of it and the developmental aspect of it, like the improvement aspect of it. Like I always enjoy playing games where you can like see your progress, and I feel like jiu-jitsu is one of those things. And hopefully with the database we can create it so it's like more visual and you can like see your progress and kind of gamify it a bit. But I've always enjoyed, I feel like, the problem solving aspect of it and the kind of gamification and like leveling up aspect of it.
I think in terms of my favorite parts of jiu-jitsu, my answers are very similar. The problem solving and you know, evolving and not staying still when it comes to learning and always changing and trying to improve. Do you feel that it's easy to perceive improvement in jiu-jitsu? I have a lot of students that ask me like, Matt, like I don't know if I'm getting better, and usually a lot of the time it's like blue belts and early purples, because they've gone through enough jiu-jitsu at that point that they have had perceived improvement in the past, but now they're getting to a point where they realize how vast the sport is and how much there is to learn, and they just don't know if they are getting better. And a lot of the time by that time they're experiencing like the blue belt blues, you know, where they've probably considered leaving the sport. They realize how hard and how long it's going to be. Do you always perceive your own improvement? Do you just like trust that the improvement is happening? What's your outlook on on perceived improvement within the a practitioner's journey?
I definitely think it's hard. Yeah, for sure. It's the constant, like the idea that, you know, you're getting better, but so is everyone else around you. So it's difficult to see your progression. And yeah, this is one of the problems I feel like the database can solve, in the sense that, like, if you can gamify it a bit and yeah, like just make it so people can see that they're getting better, I think it would be a fun application of it for sure, and keep people motivated to keep going, because it can be a bit deflating, you know, when you get in those plateaus. So yeah, I think that's one case that we're trying to solve. But yeah, I do think it's tough.
How do you think somebody can improve their ability to analyze jiu-jitsu? Like when they're watching it, to sort of be able to see things that they might not see it in the initial, you know, the first time they see it. Is there any advice you would give to somebody who wants to do what you do a little bit better for themselves?
Yeah. So hate to steal Greg's thunder, but yeah, like I said, the only real thought I've put into this has been recently after my conversation with Greg. And I feel like the kind of framework that he gave to me has helped quite a bit. And basically what he said to me,
and this is not a conversation that we can listen to, right? This is like a personal conversation you had with him.
I do believe this one was in the first. So the second call we had is the public one. That's the one that is a podcast, that Invariance podcast, which I think was amazing as well. But this first one was kind of just a bit more informal. And to be honest, I was a bit scared of Greg, so I didn't want to record it.
Why? You thought he would kick the piss out of you for being an idiot?
Kind of. I thought it was going to be more like that Joe Rogan Danaher podcast, the first one, where Danaher's asking him like questions, and it looks like Rogan's never even done jiu-jitsu before, you know?
That was so awesome.
Yeah. That's how I thought it was going to go. But yeah, Greg was super respectful, and yeah, like I said, yeah, great guy.
I've always had great conversations with Greg. Like, I've had people be like, man, when he came on your show, he was like being a jerk and all this stuff. He really rubbed me the wrong way. I'm like, why are you getting upset about this? Like, it's, you know, it's like his personality. You know what I mean? He doesn't have to try and make everything nice and sugar coated. He's just trying to give you like good information. That's what my coach does as well. So I'm kind of like used to that rough delivery sometimes, but I think he means well. He's respectful, and obviously his information is very good.
Right. So yeah, basically the framework that he gave me to think about was, first, define the problem that you're trying to solve, and then you propose a solution, and that solution is based on the effect you're trying to create, pretty much. So that's basically what he suggested as far as like analysis goes. Like, define the problem, propose a solution, and then explain why that solution works based on the effect that it's creating. So yeah, that's the framework that I've been trying to think about stuff through the past month or so, and I feel like it's helped quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. I think so many people, myself included, have really improved through Greg's work over the last couple of years in jiu-jitsu, and he seems to be like a polarizing figure. Like, people either love his work or they think that he's like a total pompous, you know, asshole. I don't think he's a pompous asshole, but I do see training pedagogy from both sides. Like, of course, these guys, they don't drill, they don't teach moves, they don't even, from what I see, they don't even like to name moves, you know, like they don't like to call things like closed guard or whatever. They're using their own language and whatever. That doesn't bother me at all. But I do believe that there is a place for drilling. I do believe that there can be benefits to things like drilling I'm not going to say drilling for reps or for speed, but drilling for precision, drilling for mechanics, drilling to explore certain situations that you're not familiar in. And I don't look at, the way that he was packaging eco earlier on, at least the way that I saw it, was, never do a drill again. Like, you're wasting time if you do drills. Everything's absolute. Everything is either this side or that side. I was trying to talk to him and say, the way that I do this eco approach is we do the task focused games. Task focused games are incredibly beneficial, but like, it's a skill to develop good task focused games as a coach. And I quickly realized, I'm like, oh, this is actually like a whole other part of coaching that is a skill, and it's going to take time for me to develop. Like, I've had games that did not hit the mark the way that I thought that they would once you put them into practice. And I said to these guys, we do task focused games, but I also show moves. We also go over things that I'm watching and I'm studying, watch Danaher or whatever, show this or that. And then he's like, well, you can't show me anything. Like, you can't show me a move, and now it's a part of my game. And it's like, I'm somewhere in the middle, because I 100% have seen techniques that I've watched on, instructionals, and then I've been able to go to the gym and hit them right away. Like, I'm not saying everyone can do that, but like, I have had that happen. I have been shown a solution and been able to implement it almost right away. So I don't think it's so much like it's either this way or that way. I think that it all is part of a holistic, healthy approach to teaching and learning that involves task-focused games, self-organization, exploration, all of those things, but also to say that we can't use something that somebody has discovered before, or to say that there's not like landmarks and mechanics that are pretty consistently effective and repeatable. I don't know that that is also true. I think that there's a healthy balance somewhere in the middle. And so I kind of wanted to get your opinion on it. And like I said, I know just from watching your videos, you must study a lot of tapes. You're always referencing specific portions of instructionals and things like that. Like, what do you think is the best way to learn jiu-jitsu? Is there a best way? Is one way better than the other? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I would say I've been relatively quiet on this topic, just because I don't train like at a big school or like I just don't feel like, I feel like there are other people that are more qualified to talk about this than myself, as far as like developing skill, So just to preface what I'm about to say with that, the way I've been approaching it is kind of similar to exactly what you said, and kind of just piggybacking off of the framework that I talked about, where basically like you present a problem to your students and you say like, this is the problem that we're trying to solve, and this is the proposed solution in the form of a specific technique. And this is basically, this technique works because we create this effect. And like, basically just saying like, this is the current way that I'm seeing a lot of people solve this problem. And it's one of my favorite ways to solve this problem currently. But that can change. Like, in a year, you might do it differently, So I think it's important to just like acknowledge that, this is a problem. This technique is solving this problem, and there are going to be other ways to solve it in the future. But this is the current way that I'm seeing people do it, and it's the current way that I'm going about solving this problem, or something like that. So that's the way I've been approaching it. And it's kind of funny. Have you seen that new, it's relatively new, I guess, the podcast with Terrence Williams and Eric Weinstein that Joe Rogan did?
You mean Terrence Howard?
Terrence Howard, yeah, not Terrence
Oh, man,
Williams,
he's
sorry.
My favorite mathematician. What is it?
Yeah, exactly.
1 × 2 = 1 or something, some shit like that. He's hilarious.
But,
yes, I did. To answer your question, yes, I did watch that. It was awesome.
When I was listening to it, it reminded me of Greg, because basically Eric was like...
Wait. Did Terrence remind you of Greg, or did...
Yes. Terrence reminded
I'm
me of
sure
Greg.
he's gonna love that.
And it's just because this one part where Eric says, look, Terrence, you have a lot of like very interesting stuff here. And it's like you're playing blackjack and you get to 19 and then you hit on 19 every time. And you say like, look at all this interesting stuff and here's what it means. And then when you go to that, here's what it means, you like lose a bunch of people because a lot of people don't agree that here's what it means. But the stuff you're bringing to the table has a tremendous amount of value. And that reminded me of Greg. Like, I think a lot of his ideas are very, very good. And I think he has a lot to offer to jiu-jitsu. And then he'll like go over the top and say like, this is what it means. And he like kind of doubles down on it. And then he loses a bunch of people and people like disregard what he has to say after that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the way I kind of feel
think where
about
he
it.
loses people is where he's like, there's no such thing as a technique. There's no such thing as teaching a technique. And, the way that we look at like drilling things, creating repetitions, the way we've been doing it is wrong and all this stuff. And that's where people are like, but that's how the best coaches, that's how the best judo fighters have won, is doing like thousands of reps of uchikomi. That's how Danaher and the Mendez brothers run their classes. They drill it. And sometimes it's drilling against like the most minimal resistance. So to go against all of that, and to say that it's like backed by science and all that stuff, that's where a lot of people, I guess, for lack of a better word, they take offense to it, right? For me, I never took offense to it. I think there's too many people who are invested too much in this side or that side. Like, it's even just, I shouldn't talk about American politics because in Canada we are run by like the biggest fucking idiot of all time. But the American political system's interesting too because everyone is so like divided and team based, and I've never liked to choose like who I would vote for. I mean, I think it's all kind of a show anyways, but like I would never choose who I vote for based on a team. You know what I mean? It's like I'm a Democrat through and through, or I'm a Republican through and through, and we got to win because it's our team. Like I don't like to be dogmatic and pick teams that way. It's always been like, okay, what are the policies? And so I even though what Greg was saying was inflammatory to a lot of people, like I still found it fascinating, and I tried to see the good things he was offering, like you had mentioned, like, hey, let's focus more on live training. Let's focus more on training against resistance. Let's build practices around these games so that we can try to bring out a particular skill set in the athlete aside from just teaching them a move. And I'm like, man, there's definitely gold there. And, I've been teaching that way for over a year now. And not the way that they would probably approve of. Like, I still do other things, but it is incredibly effective to have both, in my opinion. And so, I never really got hung up on like, no, this is the best way or that's the best way. And at this point, I've had conversations with Greg and with people in Eco, and like, I think it's kind of a stupid debate to say this way's better or that way's better. I think it's all necessary to kind of bring the best results. You watch instructionals, I'm sure, yes?
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
you're bringing out specific parts of a DVDs where Danaher will say like one detail and then linking it in your videos, which is awesome. Do you find watching instructionals helps you?
Definitely. I kind of along the same lines as you. Like, I've definitely watched an instructional and then gone to the gym and used the move that same day without even having to like drill it at all.
Yeah. Because you know it exists. You know that
Right,
it's a
exactly.
possibility.
Exactly. So I do think that's a beautiful way to say it. And I think that's exactly what I was trying to say. Like, I think watching all of the match footage, watching all these instructionals are a great way to see what's possible and kind of just expand your mind and see like, these are different ways of solving problems. And I don't think there's anything wrong with like showing someone, like, hey, this is one way to go about solving the problem, I just think it's if you teach a technique in the sense that like this is the way to solve the problem. I think that's where it kind of starts to get a bit gray. But yeah, I'm sounds like we're in the same boat.
I also think that any coach or person in an instructor's role who thinks they have all the answers, like, steer clear of that guy. You know what I mean? Like that is, there's so many, jiu-jitsu truly is infinite, right? So this could be one way to solve a problem, but that doesn't mean that it's the only way, and it shouldn't be taught as the only way. And if your instructor has that mindset of like, this is the only way, or they don't like to be challenged or questioned, I think that says something about them. So I always welcome questions and challenges, because when we go to the practice room, instead of me, as a coach, I don't have the attitude of like, I'm showing you the way, but rather like, let's collaborate and let's kind of come up with some solutions, and then let's test the solutions and see what kind of results we can get. Like truly like a scientific method. You have a hypothesis, and then you want to test it in different situations and see, can we recreate this? Is this something that can be consistently done, right? And what are the variables and what are the invariants and whatever that make this make us achieve what we're trying to achieve. Okay. Can you do me a favor? Because I've actually never seen you train, and I don't know if you've ever competed. I'm not sure. It doesn't really matter to me, but describe your jiu-jitsu game in one sentence.
One sentence.
I'll just say this. I
would say calculated.
Okay, that's cool. Like when I was a purple belt, my game is like so different from how I used to play at purple. You know what I mean? I remember when I was in purple, that was kind of when I abandoned like the classic type of jiu-jitsu, and I was going more towards like, okay, I want to do barambolos, I want to do crab rides and things like that, and I was getting like infatuated with fancy shit, I was like, well, I want to do more modern jiu-jitsu. I was watching Mendez brothers and Mayao brothers, and what they were doing looked so good and so cool, right? And like, okay, and now that I'm a black belt, like I've gone through my leg lock phase, I've gone through all of those different phases, and I don't really do bolos anymore, and now I'm just back to like basic shit, half guard passing, like close guard, like I like basic mount, and so my jiu-jitsu game has changed so much. So I'm curious to see like your game, what it is. You said calculated, but like what positions do you like? Do you are there parts, what positions are you interested in? Like, what are you working on right now?
I've been, I'm going through my bolo phase right now, for sure. Been messing around with a lot of crab ride stuff, specifically to counter leg entanglement. So I'm trying to teach, there's a lot of wrestlers from Hawaii, that go, it's a big cultural thing. A lot of people wrestle here, and a lot of people are pretty big. So,
yes.
I would say since I moved out here, I've had to get better at holding big people down and kind of just sweeping from bottom position, just because I was trying not to leg lock people because it's relatively unfamiliar to them. But now I'm trying to teach people leg locks with the goal of countering those leg locks with like barambolos and crab rides. So that's kind of what I'm going through now. And I think it leads nicely into the tripod passing type stuff that Joseph's been kind of pioneering. So, just trying to teach people how to enter legs, and then myself trying to counter their entries with either that tripod passing type stuff, or if they get deeper into the entanglement, trying to do like crab ride, barambolo stuff. That's been kind of what I've been working on recently.
How big are you and how old are you?
I am 30 and I'm about 170, 175.
Okay. In terms of height, are we talking like 5'9", 5'10"?
5'11".
Okay. Yeah, that is a fun phase. The barambolos it's a very fun phase. I was actually noticing back in the day, like, hey, there is leg entries here. It's it's not the most conventional or most common thing you see, but it is very, very cool to see how you can link all of those techniques together. So where do you want your game to be like, you know, a couple of years from now? Let's say you've gone through your crab rides and your barambolos. Like, what are the positions you're hoping to get better at over the next couple of years?
This is a good question.
And I guess I'll preface that question with like, what positions do you think you do well now? Like, what are your, you know, what positions do you feel like you're very comfortable in?
I feel like I'm pretty comfortable in leg entanglements. And yeah, just trying to combine those leg entanglements with back takes, I think is something that a lot of people are exploring right now. And there's been some people that give their thoughts on it, like Mateus has given his thoughts on it in his instructional, like a brief section, and then Lachlan talks about it a bit on Submeta. But I think people are still kind of piecing together their ideas. I think there's a lot of like defense, like leg defense to back, but not necessarily like leg offense to back.
Like forcing a defensive reaction that exposes the back? Is that kind of what you're...
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think that's, especially no-gi, it's harder to, like Chris Wojcik talked about this, how like when you're attacking from K-guard or something and you use like a matrix style back take, in the gi you can just like grab their belt and now it's like impossible for them to like turn and face you.
Yeah.
But in no-gi it's much harder to prevent them from turning to face you. So when they turn to face, that's generally when you threaten the legs, and when they don't turn to face, that's when they expose their back. So I think it's relatively important to be able to go back and forth between threatening legs and exposing the back. To make them question at least turning to face you, because if they turn to face you, there should be some sort of consequence, and I think that consequence might be easiest to make it a leg entanglement, you know?
Do you train in both gi and no gi?
No, I went to a Craig Jones seminar, and this was before COVID, and I was initially training at like an all gi school, and then people were asking how to defend K-guard, and I didn't know what K-guard was, and I was like, these people are asking how to defend it, and I don't even know what it is, and I'm a purple belt, and then we rolled with like a bunch of people from that school, and I got heel hooked so many times, and then I was like, gosh, I need to learn this leg lock stuff. And then COVID hit, and then I just studied leg locks all over COVID, and then came back, and since then I've only done no gi. I haven't touched a gi since.
Yeah, a lot of people are putting the gi away. I mean, yeah. I enjoy no gi a lot more, but just from a business perspective, I do have a clientele that wants to train in the gi, so I feel like I kind of need to keep that open. When you went into deep leg lock study, who did you watch? What material did you study for that?
Yeah, this was over COVID. So I would say now the leg lock material is like, there's so much out there.
Yeah.
You know, even on YouTube, there's so much. But it was primarily Danaher, Craig, Lachlan. Yeah, those are the three that come to mind from back then.
What advice would you give to beginners in jiu-jitsu?
Man, see, like this is the stuff that again, this is like if you run a school, you should have a good answer to this question. And I don't put a lot of thought into like this type of thing. So yeah, yeah, like this is a good question. Let me think about it for a second.
It's a question I get asked a lot. Like, not necessarily that specific question, but I'll have beginners come up to me and I'll have kids come up to me and they're like, Matt, what should I work on? Like, there's so much to learn, right? I think the obvious answer, and like the answer that the Danaher guys talk about always, is work on your guard, right? Work on your bottom game essentially, and then work from the ground up as you progress. But I always tell the kids and the beginners that one of the easiest things they can work on without taxing their body, that can bring some low-hanging fruit immediately, is just focus on grip exchanges, hand fighting exchanges. Like, the hand fighting is so important, and try to dominate that engagement phase as opposed to just like going in and scrapping and then seeing what happens, because that's really everything, especially if you're doing no gi and I mean, it's gi and no gi all together, but when in no gi, if you lose the hand fight exchange, a lot of the time you're going to be on the defensive cycle, and now you're being forced to frame, and they're able to apply weight to you or whatever. But if you can win the hand fighting exchange, I think it's one of the most low-hanging fruit that anyone really, but especially from the beginner's point of view, when they're just looking to like become more effective and get crushed less. I think that's advice I always give.
Awesome. Yeah. And thank you for sharing and gave me some time to think about my answer. So, I think mine would be a bit less tactical, and maybe I'm thinking about this from a business perspective, which, but like, I think like all of these skills that you just described are very good. But I think as a beginner, I think probably the advice I would give is, one, like, try to become part of the community at the school, and then two, study outside of jiu-jitsu, like study outside of class. Like, I think the advice from the instructor, like, I think that my advice to beginners at least would be to try and get the bug as soon as possible. And I think the way you get the bug is you feel like you belong to something bigger than yourself, and you're doing research yourself, and you're wanting to improve yourself. You're kind of taking your learning into your own hands. So I think the best advice would be just try and get them hooked. Like, and once they're hooked, they can learn anything that you want them to learn. But yeah, I think that would be my goal. And that's great from a business perspective, right? Obviously you want them to be hooked.
Totally.
But I think just from their perspective, it would be, that would be my advice. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually great advice. Are you excuse me. Just get kind of lost my voice the last couple days. Are you a Simpsons fan?
No, she wouldn't let me watch anything like that growing up. She didn't like the humor.
The reason I ask is because your channel has that little insert from Gracie films, not Hoist Gracie, but after every Simpsons episode, there's the movie theater, the card, and it's like, da, 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 and someone goes, shh. And so you've taken this, and this is kind of part of all of your videos, right? But it says less impressed, more involved, right?
I did not know that was a thing.
Where did you get that from then? If you've never watched Simpsons, how could you see that? Because I've never seen that anywhere else aside from after Simpsons episodes.
That is too funny. I did not know it was part of a Simpsons episode. I was told that I should have some sort of intro in my videos, and I just Googled free intro, like without copyright, and there was like a website that had like 100 of them, and I just clicked on that one and settled on that one, and then you just add text to it, and then I just made it like that. It was just kind of like random.
That's hilarious. And I don't know if you realize, like, maybe not for people your age and younger, because Simpsons is far past its heyday. Like back in my day, fuck, I'm old. When I was a kid, like, Simpsons was like a religion. So much culture that we have, and like the quotables in today's culture, at least for people my age and older, is from Simpsons. And so when you add that little that little insert into your videos, I don't think you realize like how much that hooks certain people, because that's too funny. It's so nostalgic, and it's just like, it's just there. So that's so funny that you kind of stumbled upon that by accident. But yeah, that's like at the end of every single Simpsons episode, that noise is there. And so you're probably like putting in this little earworm that you don't even know on so many people. Nowadays, I wouldn't recommend anyone watch Simpsons. I don't think it's funny anymore. But when I was a kid, it was fucking so funny. Okay.
That is hilarious.
So I just want to ask another fun question. Do you have hobbies outside of jiu-jitsu? Like, what do you like to do for fun?
Yeah, recently I've gotten into spearfishing. Gone spearfishing quite a bit out here in Hawaii. It's a lot of fun. Same thing with hunting. Like hunting, Lanai is kind of known for being the island that Joe Rogan comes to hunt axis deer. So it's kind of like the hunting paradise. And yeah, there's just a lot of hunting and fishing here. So I've been doing quite a lot of that.
Are you bow hunting or are you using a rifle?
Yeah, archery hunting.
Wow, that's fucking hard. I have a lot of respect for that. Very cool. Let's quickly talk about CJI and ADCC. Do you have predictions or picks for any of those divisions? Who do you sort of see, making their way to the podium?
Man, they just released the brackets, huh? I haven't even looked at it. But yeah, I don't really know. I'm just glad that they didn't schedule the time like overlapping, because we're gonna be going, and yeah, it was gonna be annoying not to be able to go to both. So, but it sounds like we should be able to see at least most of both events. So
I think so, especially because it sounds like CJI is going to be easy to watch. Like it's going to be free on YouTube, right?
Right. Which is great I love that.
Who do you see winning under 80 kilogram and over 80 kilogram in CJI?
Man. It's a good question. I wish I pull up the bracket. I just from a selfish perspective, like I really hope Joseph does well. I like Joseph a lot.
Me too. I feel like any of those guys can win on any given day, right?
Exactly. The under 80 especially is so stacked, it's unreal.
So stacked. And even like you got guys like Lucas Barboza who's in there. He's going to be huge at that weight.
Right. Wild card.
Yeah, I think it's going to be hard to beat Ty Rotolo, honestly.
Yeah.
He's so friggin' good. And I think in the final of the over 80 we're probably going to see Hugo versus Nicky Rod. And how do you think that match plays out should it happen? We've already seen Victor win on Fight Pass Invitational.
Yeah. And I would say the rule set, like if it was ADCC rule set, I think it might favor Nicky Rod. But this rule set doesn't seem to penalize the guard puller as much, So it is an interesting matchup, but yeah, it's tough to go against Nicky Rod, but
like if Victor gets to closed guard, Nicky Rod's like, right. I'm not going to say he's fucked, but he's got nothing. He's got like no...
Right. You lost that round.
Yeah. Like what is his viable way to victory aside from getting out of the guard and trying to force body lock passing? Like he did pass Victor at a Fight Pass Invitational, but then Victor like immediately recovered his guard. You know what I mean? Like it didn't last long. It wasn't sustainable. And Victor's got size on him. So I honestly, I think it's going to be hard for Nicky Rod to beat Victor Hugo under this rule set. Another interesting thing that one of my buddies brought up to me was the fact that, hey, this is, we're talking $1 million here. So is that going to incentivize the athletes to go out there and try and put it all on the line? Or is it going to incentivize them to get a lead and then just hang on? And I think the latter is probably what's more true. I think it could have an opposite effect in terms of making these matches exciting, because it's $1 million on the line. People might be inclined to take the more safe route. What's your opinion on that?
I agree. We could see a lot of closed guard.
I know, because that's how I would do it. If there's $1 million, it's like, I am planning on doing an episode on this topic. Like, should you care how you win, right? Like, should you just try to get the win at all costs, even if the match was like unwatchable, or should you try to win in a specific way? It's kind of a philosophical question, but $1 million is $1 million.
Right. When it's 10,000, you should probably care about how you win more than winning.
Yeah.
But when it's $1 million, it's probably more about winning.
Do you think Miragali wins the absolute in ADCC? I think Miragali is going to win his division, I would say. Do you disagree with that?
No, I think he wins. I think he double golds.
Double golds, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
What about what about Gordon? Obviously he's gonna beat Simoes. There's no way Simoes can beat him.
Yeah. I think a lot of people think that, which is why they went out and got another super fight with Felipe Pena. But yeah, I think Gordon just runs through both of them. Like, I don't even think it'll be close.
Gordon's not doing his division anymore, right?
No.
So Gordon versus Pena. I mean, a couple of years ago, that would have been like the biggest fight in jiu-jitsu, and now it's kind of lost all of its appeal, especially after Pena, like how the last match went when he just kind of stopped, and then Miragali just dusted Pena pretty quickly. Do you see Pena having any chance of winning that fight?
No. Like, even I did my my breakdown of their third match where Pena gave up after like 45 minutes. And kind of fun fact about this one, like, this was when my channel was very, very small, and I was getting like 6 subscribers maybe a day, and I was like stoked about it, like, yeah, slow climb to the top, you know. And then Gordon posted about my like analysis of the match, and that day I got 1,600 subscribers that one day, and I was like, oh man, this is it, we made it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was kind of the start of the ascent, was that third match. But yeah, I don't see it being close. I don't see a path to victory for Felipe or Yuri. So yeah.
So let's say Gordon wins the super fight and Miragali wins the absolute, and now they're scheduled to fight. Like, do you think that fight happens? Does Miragali beat Gordon, especially when it's like a couple years from now when he has even more time to develop? You know, do they even let that match happen, or they agree not to fight? Like, how do you see that whole thing playing out?
I mean, it's all speculation, you know, like, we have no idea. But it seems to me like Marigali's respectful of Gordon, and like, yeah, so I personally don't see it happening. But that's just me guessing. Like, I have no inside information at all, you know, so
yeah.
Yeah,
I
I personally don't see it happening. What do you think? Yeah.
They seem to be really good buddies, and also Gordon's health is like always in question, right? Who knows if he's even going to be competing in a couple of years, right? I hope so. Do you think who wins 66 and 77 in your opinion?
66.
Like, I want to say Pato.
I think Ethan.
But I just don't think.
I was gonna say.
I think Ethan could win too, for sure. Especially after his last performance against Corbe. With Pato, I think his jiu-jitsu is good enough to win that tournament for sure. But it's his wrestling that's always been in question, right? And I think that's where he's gonna struggle. He's gonna have to play a perfect tactical tournament in order to win that under that rule set. And I think for 77, there's no doubt it's gonna be Galvao, right?
Yeah. Yeah, Levi talked about this in his trials run, how he was just trying to be like super, super aggressive from guard, because what he didn't want is to just get stalled out and then be forced to wrestle in overtime. And that's basically the kryptonite to someone like Pato. So, yeah, if he can force his game and make it happen, like, there's no one better at it than him. But yeah, it'd have to go perfect for him to do it. And there are a lot of other people that can do both, you know? So, yeah, I think 77, I'd be surprised if it wasn't Mika.
Especially now with Cade out of the division, right?
Yeah, exactly.
If you were an athlete and you were already qualified for ADCC, but then you got an invitation to CJI, would you jump over?
There wouldn't be a doubt in my mind. I would do it. Yeah.
Do you think CJI is good for the sport?
I think it is. I think, you know, it's tough for me to say, because, like, I have no hard feelings, and I the interactions I've had with Mo and Gordon and all of them have been amazing. Like they've been very supportive of me. But this whole CJI event has kind of shed a new light on that whole thing. And I think it's been helpful in the sense that like you get to see both sides of the story. You know, you don't just get the glamour, and you get to see behind the curtain a little bit. So I think it's been pretty eye-opening, and I think it's good for the sport in terms of that. And then obviously the athlete pay is what everyone's talking about. So in that regard, it's great for it.
Yeah, I've thought a lot of different things. I remember when I first heard about it, I was like, I wouldn't jump ship, I wouldn't go over. And then I thought about it more, and I'm like, well, I mean, $1 million is super prestigious. And if you look at the athletes in that tournament, it's like so stacked that it's definitely, you know, a prestigious tournament to win, even though it's never happened. Mo, ADCC actually blocked me on Instagram. I don't know why. I think I made one comment about, I think it was after they announced the Gordon Pena match. I may have commented like, man, this event is really, you know, pulling at hairs here. Boom, blocked. I'm just like, what? I have a kid going to your world championships in a couple of weeks here. What's going on? So it just kind of shows like I think they don't really want like anybody going against the grain commenting on their posts or anything like that. But I guess they got to do what they got to do. Okay, before we let you go here, I just wanted to ask you about your Outlier Database, that project, and can you talk to us a little bit about it? What you're doing with that project for Jiu-Jitsu?
Yeah, man, it's all I do these days, and it kind of started out as, I don't know how deep I want to get into the history of it, but we could just say it started out as like a way for me to take notes in an organizational way and kind of say like, hey, I want to see some sequences happen from De La Riva, and then I can see, 34 sequences happen from De La Riva in competition, and I can kind of study a lot of those matches and kind of compare and contrast, and it was great for making my YouTube videos. And then people were like asking for statistics and things like this, and I was like, oh, maybe I can make a product out of it, and then kind of made that. But then basically it kind of pivoted because the statistics kind of required a lot of flow grappling matches, and a lot of people for the database, they don't want to have a subscription to flow grappling and a subscription to the database, so then I kind of pivoted, and now I pretty much only enter matches that are on YouTube, which is great for CJI. It's like, thank you for putting it all on YouTube. Mm-hmm. So yeah, basically, long story short, in its current state, it's a tool to help you analyze jiu-jitsu matches. All my notes are on there and everything like that. And you can see a large amount of competition footage from whatever position you're working on. And that competition footage is also linked with instructional. So like if you see something happen in a competition, you can learn how to do it from an instructor, and vice versa. If you're working through an instructional or a YouTube video, for example, like all of my YouTube videos, I'll upload to the database, and you can basically follow along and watch my YouTube video there. And you'll see all the examples that I used in my YouTube videos, as well as other examples that I didn't use in the YouTube video, of what I'm talking about happening in competition. So that's kind of the bones of it. But then we have, aspirations to kind of become an AI like vision model, and kind of use the data to train that. But that's a bit down the road, so don't want to get too in the clouds here.
So. Did you say that you link clips to instructionals?
Yeah, exactly.
How can you do that and avoid like copyright issues?
Well, we don't. So if it's behind a paywall, such as like Submeta, we don't show the actual clip. We just tell you like, hey, Lachlan talks about it in this course at this time in this chapter.
But you can't click on it and watch that section?
Only if you have the submeta. So exactly, like this is why it was a big pivot for me after making it, because initially it was like all I watch is instructionals. I never watched really YouTube stuff. And all I did was study matches on Flow Grappling. But now trying to make this product better, I pretty much only watch YouTube matches, and I watch way less instructionals now, and I watch way more YouTube content as far as like jiu-jitsu teaching goes. Just because if it is a YouTube video, we can link directly to it. You can just click on the timestamp and it just pops right to that video and you hear them talking about it. And if it's someone talking about a shin on shin entry into, you know, a Rimiyashi or single leg X, you can hear, like, see them teach it, and then like below it are 15 examples of people doing it in competition. So you can like see how it actually looks under live resistance, which I think, kind of circling back to the eco thing, is like what it's all about. Like, cool, this is how it's taught, but how does it look when it's actually being done against someone who doesn't want to be done to them? And it's just kind of helping bridge that gap for people to help hopefully make their studying much more effective.
Awesome. Well, I'm not going to take too much more of your time, Jake. Is there anything else you want to talk about with the products or anything you're offering? Again, we're going to leave links to, you know, the Outlier Database and maybe some of your videos down in the show notes, whatever you want the people to see. But is there anything else you wanted to add before we let you go?
No. That's pretty much it. Maybe I don't know if you have some time, but I'd kind of like to pick your brain a bit about how you currently like structure. Maybe we do this off air if you want to, but how you currently like structure your training curriculum for your students and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess I'm just not too familiar with how instructors like to do that, and that's a problem we're trying to solve. So, yeah, just kind of curious how you go about doing that.
I'd love to talk to you about that, and I'll be totally honest. I don't have a way. There's I've played with a lot of different things, from, you know, monthly modules to weekly modules. You know, we would spend like a month on passing from the half guard, a month on different arm bars, and then it's like, you know, you read like a book from Rob Gray and it tells you, okay, well, that's great in the short term, but in the long term scheme of things, it's not the greatest for information retention. You talk to Greg, I think he works on like a weekly module curriculum where he'll do like a week of guarded situation, and then he'll sort of he'll supplement that with like a week of standing. So there's like 2 modules simultaneously happening, and then the next week it's a new module plus one of the previous modules. Like that's so we've changed it up a lot. And honestly, the great part about having a gym is you can teach however you want. So sometimes we'll spend a week on doing a specific topic, but then next week we'll move on, or maybe next week I decide, no, we need to take another week and sort of develop this. Like tripod passing is so hot right now. Everyone's talking about tripod passing, and my athletes really wanted to work that position, and the kids wanted to as well. So I'm like, all right, well, we'll spend 2 weeks doing that, right? So I think it's okay as an instructor to not have something set in stone, to not feel like, okay, this is how it has to be. This is going to be the best way to do it. Like we were discussing earlier, a lot of it is just experimentation and sort of seeing what works. And as the coach, you kind of have to see what problems the students are having, or if there's a competition and there's like some scenarios where you notice there were issues that were going unsolved. That I think that can lead to can give you clues as to where you should structure your practice and where you can make bigger gains. But you know, it changes. And there's the great thing about jiu-jitsu is there's just so much material, as you know, you can never really cover it all. And who's to say that one way is better than the other? So I really like the way that Greg structures his, where it's like, you know, you'll simultaneously be working on 2 scenarios, maybe a guarded situation and maybe a submission situation, right? Like, so it changes for me. But absolutely, if you'd want to talk about that, I mean, I'd be happy to. I just don't know if I can give you like a systematic, you know, answer or a hard, fast answer that this is the best way, because I'm still learning too. I literally don't know.
I guess I was more curious about how you as an instructor, like, is it more formal in the sense that like you go through an instructional, or you're watching competition footage, or you get an idea from your students about what they want to learn, and then you go and like write out like this is what we're going to do on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday kind of deal? Or is it more informal? And then if you do have like something where you like see a problem that your students aren't solving, like maybe in competition, they, ran into a problem that you want them to solve. Do you send them like clips or instructionals to study?
Oh yeah. I have a bunch of instructionals that I share with my students. At least the ones, like, I'll be honest, the amount of students that are actually willing to do extra training is pretty low. Like they have to be very committed and they have to have that desire to improve off the mats as well. And for those people, I give them, all the material that they can handle. But the majority of them don't really have that. I guess it's also situational based on, what tournaments are upcoming and what skills do I think really need to be dialed in for those tournaments. Like I had mentioned earlier, a big one is hand fighting. So I'm really trying to get everyone focusing on hand fighting and as like a warm up and just as an overall goal in any position really is to win the hand fighting, right? Like Greg says, jiu-jitsu is grip fighting. Like everything we're doing in jiu-jitsu is grip fighting at the end of the day. So we do it from everywhere. And so that's been a huge focus for me to try and get everybody very, very familiar with putting the grip fight as one of the main goals in these positions. But yeah, I mean, I don't write out my like a weekly lesson. I could do that, but sometimes when you come into class, you'll have a idea as to where you want practice to go, and then you'll see the people in the room and you'll read the room and be like, I don't even know if this is going to hit the mark with these guys. Like maybe the people that I thought would show up didn't show up. Or maybe they have a question that's taking class in another direction. So generally when I go into lessons, I actually plan it the day of. I like having that spontaneity and I do try to keep the week running in line with a certain theme. I know there's certain games that I want to play throughout the week for different classes, but like I said, nothing's set in stone. Usually when I go into a class, I have 2 or even 3 designs of practice that I think could play out. So I have like this is what I think we're going to do. I have a backup plan. And then if need be, we can work on something else. Right. And sometimes I'll just pull a mulligan and right in the middle of class, I'll be like, hey, we're doing something else. Like this is, you know what I mean? So I feel like there's no lack of great games or I don't feel like I'm ever wasting time. I feel like I'm always efficient with my time as an instructor, but sometimes I'll go into class and I'll just have an idea of what I want to show. It's not like I write it out on a board, although I think that could work for sure. And I think it's good to get ideas out on paper just so you can see everything. But generally I plan day to day and with an overarching theme of like 1 or 2 weeks, what I want to work. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question. It's not like, I think a lot of people put a lot of pressure on themselves to over-organize things sometimes. And I've tried to do that in the past. And actually I found that it can create resistance in creativity and it can create, it just doesn't allow me to like flow as an instructor the way that I want to. So again, I'm always looking. That makes a lot of sense. I'm always looking to change things, and I don't think I know the best way, right? And I think that's why people like to train with me is because I'm very much just trying to learn, just like the student is there, right? So
that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, we're currently working on developing basically like a branch of the database that allows instructors to more easily share information with students. So that's why I was kind of curious about picking your brain on it. And I think that's very valuable feedback. So
and I think,
thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I think the way that, you say like each week you do a video that could be completely different topic from the previous week. Right. And I think as an instructor, what I do is I get inspired by what I'm watching. So it could be a students competing at a competition. It could be me competing and like the problems I ran into. It could be, maybe there was a who's number one on the weekend and I saw something that kind of interested me. Or maybe I'm watching an instructional and like this really caught my eye. I think this could really help everyone out. So I just kind of bring into the gym on a weekly basis, like what inspires me, and just I don't even watch a full instructional from front to back. Like I don't know how you study instructionals. Generally, I'll watch a couple chapters, and then I'll move on to something else, and then I'll come back, because I feel like watching an instructional from front to back sometimes isn't even really as beneficial, because I always need to watch it multiple times. Like, I need to watch something, go try it, and then come back and sort of skim over it again, because there's always things that I miss, especially if it's like something I'm really not familiar with. Like a big example, what we're going to be working on this week is octopus guard. And it's not a part of my game, nor is like buggy chokes, but they're incredibly effective when applied properly, and so is octopus guard. So I'm like, man, like, I want to incorporate this in my game, and I watched the octopus DVD from Craig, but I hadn't really had a chance to battle test it. And so last week I stayed a couple hours after class a few times with my buddy, and we're just sort of like playing with it and trying to figure out how it feels and whatever. And then I go back and I watch it again. And now it's like, okay, maybe I could like start to teach it. Maybe I have like enough confidence where I can sort of teach it. But usually when somebody is there in like a knee shield, I'm always thinking like, keep everything inside, keep them in front of me, like traditional knee shield. And octopus is like, no, like wrap your body around him and like give him access almost to your back, which is totally not in my wheelhouse. Like, normally when somebody gets chest to chest on me, I'm thinking about getting things back inside. I'm not thinking about buggying them, right? So it is a challenge for sure when you have material like that is so foreign. There's going to be some discomfort, but I think that's kind of part of the fun too, right? Figuring out what works,
Definitely.
Figuring out what doesn't work. So that's kind of my project for the next week or two is octopus.
Awesome. Yeah, Craig's been a great proponent of that. Like he does it all the time in his training and competition, and just stand up.
He's so slick. Last thing I'll ask you, do you think a match with him and Gordon ever happens, or do you think that that's something we'll see?
At this point, I think it would be a long shot.
I think Craig will want to get paid for that,
Oh, he would want a big paycheck for sure. And he'd want a few months, to train for it. So, I doubt it, but I hope so.
Do you think there's any way Craig can win that match?
I think he has a better shot than Yuri or Felipe Pena, but
I agree.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Cool, man. Great conversation. It ran a little bit longer than I expected, so I really appreciate your time. But Jake, can you tell us where we can reach you and push any products you want to talk about?
Yeah, I have the Less Impressed, More Involved YouTube channel. I have an Instagram, and then I have the Outlier Database. So yeah, you can shoot me a message on any of those platforms or an email, and I'll get back to you.
Yeah, and guys, you should definitely be checking out Less Impressed, More Involved. It's a fantastic channel. Probably my favorite jiu-jitsu analysis channel. I've learned so much from there, from your work, and I really appreciate all you do for the jiu-jitsu community, because it's helping me out big time, helping out my students big time. So Jake Luigi, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Matt.
Guys, remember, the Everyday Jiu-Jitsu podcast is everything you need to know about jiu-jitsu. You want to support the show, check out the links in the bottom. We'll see you next time. Bye.